Now, in today's true crime story, a 14-year-old girl has died as a result of a plastic surgery meant to enhance her butt and her chest. And this is a story making the rounds because this 14-year-old called Paloma Nicole Aureliano Escobedo, who died on the 20th of September 2025 in Durango, Mexico, was as innocent as they come. And by the time we are done going through the background to the story, you begin to understand why this makes it a very painful thing to recollect and even bring to you, because it actually involves her mom and her stepfather, and everything that would lead up to her passing played out on the blind side of her biological father. And the way it was even exposed is crazy, looking at the fact that it seems there apparently was a conspiracy to try and hide the cause of her death. But just take a seat and let's get into the details. So, 14-year-old Paloma Nicole Aureliano Escobedo unfortunately did not live with both parents. Her parents were separated. So she was staying with her mom and her mom's fiancé, so more like her stepfather. And her father, called Carlos Aureliano, was also staying somewhere else. So as is with regular divorces and co-parenting, there are times where they would co-parent this kid. Now, unfortunately, the 20th of September was a black day for Carlos because he was informed that his daughter Paloma, had actually passed as a result of COVID-19. Now, when this news came, as is expected, it broke him. It broke him so much so he was overwhelmed and couldn't readily know what to do. And as is expected, he fell on family and loved ones and reached out to his ex-wife about the death of their daughter. And this is where everything got interesting, because Carlos was told that Paloma, his daughter, had passed on as a result of complications from COVID-19. And he actually believed it. So much so, funeral arrangements were made, and it's been alleged that his wife actually fast-tracked it. But then, the whole thing would go south when, during the funeral, the father's relatives noticed something odd about the 14-year-old Paloma Nicole Aureliano as she had been laid in state. They noticed that she wasn't her usual self. And you see, this is where it becomes an advantage when you are with people who are very observant and have a critical eye, because someone could have actually discounted it and written it off as maybe she had physically changed due to the fact that she's passed on. But these family members noticed that something was off, and they drew the attention of the dad, Carlos Aureliano, that they think that the chest of his 14-year-old daughter, now deceased, were actually larger than what she had before. So at this point, although Carlos, the dad, was grieving, he actually paid heed to what they were saying and confronted his ex-wife, that is his daughter's mom. And when he told her, she didn't really budge. She said, oh, it wasn't true, and that they don't know what they are saying. That is it. So, but you know, that's the thing about instinct. The dad's instinct started tingling, and he asked for his ex-wife and her family to excuse him and leave him and his daughter alone so he could say his final goodbyes. His ex-wife was adamant and refused, but after a while, he was able to convince her to do that. And when she left, the father, Carlos Aureliano, and his mother and another female relative of his checked on the remains of his 14-year-old Paloma Nicole Arellano, and lo and behold, guess what? It turns out that she had breast implants. To this point, the father now took photographs of the implants and the scars and immediately requested an autopsy, because it turns out that not only did she have breast implants, but it looks like a butt work had also been done on her behind. She's 14 years old. Now, this is where the whole case started rolling from. And according to the father, Carlos Arellano, he's alleged to have said that his ex-wife had actually agreed to this surgery, and the surgery was carried out by the current partner of his ex-wife. That is the stepfather of this 14-year-old Paloma Nicole, who has now been deceased. And this stepfather of hers is a 45-year-old plastic surgeon who is only identified as Victor N. And this Victor is seemingly a top guy who owns his own medical practice, and it's been rumored his dad is a judge and all. Now, from this point, this father accused his ex-wife and her new man of lying to him in a cover-up and blamed them directly for the demise of his daughter. And I think rightly so. And this is where the case starts getting even more interesting, because it turns out, per my research, that Mexico does not actually have specific age limits for plastic surgery. They are typically only given to those under 18 with both parents' permission. And that is why it's key. Both parents' permission. Here's the case. The biological father did not consent to this. He didn't even know about it. So the biological mother alone consenting does not satisfy for both parents. And I don't think the stepfather will satisfy in place of the biological father. It gets a bit technical there, I don't know. So, as it stands now, the license of this 45-year-old plastic surgeon has been suspended, and he is being investigated for malpractice and potentially more serious crimes depending on the final autopsy, which could take about 10 days or more to be ready. Now, this is the case that is trending across the world. I'm sure you may have seen it on other platforms, but just to add my 2 cents. First of all, honestly, I don't know if it's because of cultural difference, but I'm very surprised to see a mom signing off that her 14-year-old girl should be given a boob job and a butt job. I don't know. Because I listened to a medical person, and she was talking about the fact that looking at Paloma Nicole, young as she is, her system might not even have been fully ready to accommodate the rigorous ups and downs and nuances of the medical procedure of this plastic surgery and anesthesis that comes with it, for her to be able to be taken through it successfully. And that may have also caused something which may be found out later in the autopsy. Now, to the point of whether it was actually COVID that did her in. This expert was also even talking about the fact that if she had that underlying factor, then she was never supposed to be taken through the anesthesis for such a procedure. And indeed, if she didn't have it and caught it while she was at the hospital, then the hospital is equally liable because they exposed her to it. So it looks like no matter which direction it goes, something will have to give for this 45-year-old plastic surgeon stepfather. And it hurts. It hurts so much. I appreciate the fact that marriage has its differences. Sometimes it may not work out, which is very unfortunate. But in no way should it get to this point where one spouse overrides the authority and right of the other spouse in co-parenting and risks the life of their kid, and the kid actually loses her life. It's very unfortunate. And she was doing this allegedly with her new partner. And even other reports coming in indicate that she was actually part of the surgery procedure. This mom, although she's not medically qualified, her partner this 45-year-old surgeon allegedly included her in the surgery staff or medical team to conduct the surgery. I don't know if it was a sort of a romance fetish or something they felt was just sweet. This is the life of a 14-year-old we are talking about. And for Christ's sake, she's her own daughter. This is a case I'm really going to follow because I'm curious to see how it ends. And one unfortunate bit is, in all this, the life of 14-year-old Paloma Nicole is lost. Her dad is crushed, and I hope a semblance of justice will be found, although it still can't bring her back. What do you think about all this? I think as married couples, people need to learn that the consequences of divorce is not just about getting away from each other because you can't stand each other, but it also creates perpetual room for a lot of things to go wrong. But that's not to say I'm blaming the parents. No. We don't even know what led to their separation in the first place, but as much as possible, I know for a fact that Paloma Nicole shouldn't have been caught in the middle to leave her exposed to this 45-year-old plastic surgeon who seems, per the allegations, to be very unprofessional, and unfortunately her life is lost. All this is as was reported by Mexican news authorities. So I'm following the case. I'll bring you updates as and when they are available. I'll catch you on the next one. Stay safe.